Well, that's an hour of my life I'm never getting back. Hey TV fans, Bored Now back with you, and on this video I'm going to be talking about Euphoria Season 3 Episode 5. The episode is called This Little Piggy. Full spoilers from the start of this review, and it was quite the task to be even worse than last week's episode, but I think they may have achieved it. Can't believe this one was an hour. So the Cassie plot takes centre stage this week. I'll go through that because it really is scraping the bottom of the barrel. Now, I'll give this episode a little bit of credit because it really takes some guts to actually have a surreal scene, or what they think is a surreal scene, of her stomping through the city. So giant-sized Cassie, like it's like their answer to King Kong, and literally at one point her boobs coming through the windows into a guy's face. There's a novelty to that. There's a surreal what am I watching novelty to that. And we get a little bit of, not the same sort of thing, but a little bit of something cinematic towards the end of the episode as well, which also ends on a weird sort of note. But in between, there's so much guff, there's so much rambling. And by the way, Rule's voiceover has never sounded so bored in this. She sounds miserable and bored all the way through, like the actress is literally trying to communicate, get me the fuck out of this show. Like the voiceover during the Cassie opening bit, where she's like, Cassie believes she had the world at her feet, or whatever the line was, it just was the most bored delivery of that line. And this Cassie plot is such bollocks. It's such nonsense. So I have so many problems and so many things to call into question, but we get the whole thing with her doing the OnlyFans and her playing up this little Miss Piggy fetish thing. She's got lots of equipment. She's doing what the young people call ASMR. I think that's the initials, but she's doing a little bit of that. There's one half amusing gag where she says to Cassie, well, why don't you fart into the jar? They can't tell who it is anyway. But really, it's a thumbnail of like what this is, what the culture is, and what OnlyFans is. It's kind of like, it's just little bits that you could glean from anything. It's just like the thinnest possible portrayal where they're just doing like a cringe, bad taste sort of parody of it. Like probably in reality, like there's some that resemble that, but it's just taking the most obvious kind of thing. And there's so much to question in all of this. There's the fact that Nate has nothing to do in the episode, pretty much. I can literally sum up what he has to do very quickly. He has two scenes. He has one scene where he's now on board with Cassie doing the whole OnlyFans thing. It's like, please, I'm in trouble from these gangsters. Please bring the money home. Bring the bacon home. They're running with that gag. So he suddenly has done a 360, and I'm not saying there's a plot reason for it. Sure there is, and it's kind of like, well, look at him, he's shallow, but it's just not that interesting. Like, him putting up more of an opposition to this stuff would just be the more interesting thing to do, and it at least is consistent a little bit of his character and the way he sees things. But he just gives up like that. It's like, yes, please bring home the bacon, save us, please. And the second scene with him is then he has another body part, I think it's a toe this time. No, it was a toe. I think it's a finger this time. He has a finger part knocked off by the gangsters. You would have thought he would have moved out of the house really and moved somewhere else to try and avoid them while all this shit is going on. But I guess he's been waiting for Cassie to bring the money home so that he has some to give to the gangsters. But he has fuck all to do in this episode. Like, they've just sidetracked his character. Like, it's not nothing. But the focus is on Cassie in the episode, and there's just it's the fact that I don't care. Okay, let's do the attempts at political satire. Yeah, because this scene has been in the trailers this week. So she goes on like this talk show, and again, all this has been directed by Maddie, and I think at this point we're not sure if Maddie's doing this to maybe sabotage her career, or maybe she legitimately sees it as, this is a client I can use. But she goes on this thing and she makes a crack about like feminists these days, and it's something to do with like a guy can't even say to his woman, hey, get in the kitchen, without them being accused of the M words, and it was something like that. I can't remember what the actual line was, and the talk show host was like, hey, you sound like a Democrat. Cassie uses the word retard. I'm not a retard. Now let's deal with this, because this show this season has been prodding at some political themes. Now, I'll be honest with you, at this point, they're so heavy-handed, but at this point, I can't tell you where Sam Levinson is coming from, whether he's like a Democrat, whether he's a Republican, wherever he's coming from. It's so bloody unclear. Like, if I had to guess, I would say he's maybe Democrat, because this scene does seem to be like making fun of like some of the glib, like airheaded responses that you get from some Republicans, and it also just feels like a predictable send-up of what's happened with Sydney Sweeney in the real world. I knew this show was going to go there because it can't resist, and my problem is, if you're going to go there, then do something with it, actually play with it and do something a little bit interesting or fun with it. But they don't. It's just like these random lines stuck here and there. It's like wink and a nod. They're not really doing anything with it, and it just feels very cringe, very on the nose. And I think the whole thing really with her in real life has become a bit of an embarrassment. I think it's become an embarrassment for her. I think even she realises that now. So maybe not the best to bring it into the show, really. It sort of feels like cheap point scoring, if that's what you're trying to do with this show. But yeah, if you're going to bring politics into a show like this, and you've got to try and make it feel like cutting edge or modern, and yeah, bizarrely, this season of the show really doesn't feel like that, as I've said before. So then there's all this other stuff where Brandon, the so-called important guy, him and Cassie have been hooking up, because like Cassie's away doing all this stuff and Nate's left at home. I mean, I don't really get that side of it. I thought part of the point of OnlyFans is that you can do this stuff from home. And there's a little bit of a thing here where Maddie, as her agent, is treating this almost like it's a Hollywood career. Like, you've got to go out and meet all these important people. It's who you know. And again, that feels like a very okay, we've been here and done this before. But even so, it's just a little bit weird. I can understand that they're trying to play up the social media angle and all the rest of it. Even that seems a bit tired at this point, but it's just a little bit weird to be kind of equating like OnlyFans and becoming a star on that. in like having a Hollywood career, like almost like they are one in the same. They're kind of not. Like, you can see parallels in some ways, but they're really not. It's this weird sort of thing. And I think partly it's probably the writers taking the piss a little bit, because by the end of the episode, because Maddie blackmails Lexi into like giving Cassie an audition on the network soap opera that she works on, and she does it almost with nothing. This is where the writing is inconsistent, because Lexi doesn't want to do it, partly because it's her sister, so she doesn't want it to be seen as favouritism, and that's something that comes out later on, where Lexi is embarrassed because Cassie mentions, oh, she's my sister. And it's this whole really crappy part of this historical thing, and we get a little bit of Sharon Stone. But at first Lexi isn't going to do it, and Maddie's like, you don't want to make an enemy of me. It's like, why? It's like, how is she gonna have all this power? It's like, I think she's meant to be talking big. I think that's maybe part of Maddie's character this season, then she's talking big as a facade almost. But it's so weird that she's portraying herself as this big shot, because later on she talks to Alamo, and she's saying how the one thing she doesn't really have is money, and maybe that is the point. I'm not sure. It just seems like inconsistent writing, and I mean, Lexi could easily have called her bluff at that point anyway, and said, okay, whatever, I'm not going to audition her. And in the end, it's just a bullshit like scene, because the Sharon Stone character, the lead producer, she just laughs it off and doesn't seem to give a shit, and she seems like endeared to Cassie. It's just predictable that Cassie's going to get a role, and Lexi comes home and says, well, it's just a small role, and Sweeney's acting in that scene is really bad, where she's like overly excited, but I think that's partly them taking the piss out of like the social media or online emphasis culture. It's like, oh yeah, you know, they dream of being big stars, but ultimately, are they really going to become household names? Are they going to become big stars where they're in like prestigious roles and that? And there's an argument for that back and forth, but it does feel that maybe the show is making fun of that culture a little bit, where she just got this small role in this like crappy soap. But I have a feeling she's going to get bigger and bigger, at least for a while, in the next episode of two, because that seems to be where the drama is going, where the joke is going. And it just gets very predictable and boring between her and Maddie, where at one point, because I've almost forgot, but Cassie is kind of seeing on and off Brandon, who's the so-called important guy who Maddie introduced her to last week, and they've been like seeing each other, and Brandon's trying to turn her against Cassie, against Maddie, saying that she did nothing really for you, nothing that I couldn't do, and he's saying how you should move into this place because I've got like professional videographers. And at one point Cassie's gonna do it, and she's erring and it's like, oh, but you're my best friend. And Maddie's just playing it cool because that just seems to be her vibe this season, and she'll play anything cool. But she's got like an end game where she like manipulates Cassie, because Cassie's meant to have this audition, and then she threatens to cancel it. So that kind of makes Cassie change her mind. And the gag there is then at that point she doesn't have the audition. She's just been saying she's got the audition to string it along. I tell you what, Hollywood really is a small town, and I find it very convenient that Lexi and Maddie seemingly have found a way to embed themselves within Hollywood. It's all very convenient. I'll just say that. I think Maddie's quite good in this episode. Again, the actress, I think, is doing a solid job with what she's given, which isn't a great deal. So, yeah, that's pretty it. I mean, it's very shallow. It's very cringe. Another thing about this show this season, and there's a good example in this episode, is then it sort of seems that they've gone into like bad taste humour in this kind of show, which is meant to be like this adult, edgy type show, because it's almost like an extension of the thing last season where it seemed that they were going for shock value just for the sake of shock value. So it was almost like the facade was starting to unravel, but at least it still had the potential of, well, this is quite stylish. The cast are doing quite a good job. But yeah, in this episode, you literally get a scene with Alamo basically fighting a little person, a midget. Like, that's our whole thing, because he's pissed because of what happened last week with Laurie's gang, and they do a gag. They do a gag where a little person buys him trousers that are too short, and it's almost a gag because the little person is little, so he buys him. I don't know, it's fucking bollocks, isn't it? And then he literally threatens the little person and shouts at him and like almost stabs him, and it's terrible. It really is terrible. And once again, that actor I like, but it's just, even he seems at this point to be like fed up and bored, and because there's literally a scene where he mumbles to Rule that's, hey, that bitch Laurie probably wants my money. But he literally says it in a way where he's like mumbling the words, and it's like, it's almost like he's mumbling them, hoping the microphone doesn't pick them up too well, because there's definitely long sections in this episode and in this season where you can't really understand what anyone is saying. So he's probably hoping that, hey, a lot of this crappy dialogue won't be picked up because I've actually got a career to protect. So the main thing with Rule is that I think the girl's name is Magic, the one she had a bit of a thing with last week. She finds it's like the wire, the bug thing in Rule's locker, so they suspect that she's ratting on them, which of course she is. There's one scene with the feds in this episode where Rule calls up Laurie, and then Laurie's like right-hand man and trying to keep them on the phone long enough so the feds can trace where they are, but that doesn't really work out. Or either that or trying to get like a key bit of information, but they're sort of teasing that there might be some gang warfare. But it comes to a head this episode, and this is the other thing where there's been a little bit of like a Western theme this season, which they've sort of shied away from the last couple of episodes. It sort of comes back in this one, because Alamo comes into the diner, and this scene is pretty solid. This scene might be the best scene of the episode, where Alamo comes in, and it's at a time where Rule is talking to Maddie, and they're sort of hashing out the whole Cassie situation, and Alamo says, my man's waiting for you outside, you've got a job to do, and he's very insistent that Rule goes with him. So Rule leaves Maddie, and Maddie's waiting for a milkshake, and they start talking about life, love, all the rest of it. It's not a bad scene. There's actually a little bit of attention to it, because you know that they know about Rule ratting on them. So there's there's a bit of tension of what's going to happen to Maddie now left alone with Alamo. But no, they just have a chat back and forth. It's a little bit flirty, but Maddie reveals what she does. He reveals what he does. It's like, hey, we can rub off on each other. She's got a line about last year Hollywood made 7 billion, or 8 billion, I think. OnlyFans made 7 billion. I guess that could be true. It sounds like a reasonable enough statistic, but whatever. It's like, well, there's a lot of money left on the table, she says to that. And they decide to work together. Like, he's got all these girls at these clubs, so he takes Maddie to meet these girls, and she takes 7 of the 15. And this at least opens up some fresh plot possibilities, and it might give Maddie a little more to do next week. And 2 of them are Magic and also Kitty. So bit convenient, but there you go. They are 2 of the 7 girls then Maddie picks, and there's a little bit of an alliance forming there. But the big cliffhanger is that they get Rule to dig her own, what appears to be a grave, but a really deep hole, and they chuck the dirt over it. And this scene is a little bit more comedic than it probably should be. And the end, which is at least a moment, is Alamo comes riding in on a horse with her buried head sticking out of the turf, and he's got like a mallet, one of those like mallets that polo players have, or whatever you call that sport, I don't know. So that's kind of the cliffhanger. It's not a bad end. It's also a bit, yeah, come on, she's not going to die this far away from the finale, and it just feels okay, she's going to get out of it somehow, and that's sort of what you're there to see next week. But it was a moment. There was 2 moments, really, as I said, but I'm not saying either one of them were good. I think this one is probably a little better than the Cassie King Kong stuff, but whatever. I mean, that's about it. I'm trying to think. There's a small scene with Rule and Jules, which again is pointless. They don't really do anything with Jules. It's just them rehashing their relationship. I swear Rule says, do you want me to kiss you, about 3 times in the same scene. And I think it's implied that they may have had sex, but you don't actually see it, because they do this particular cut where it then goes to when the guy who Jules is having an affair with, or he's having an affair with her, I guess. It cuts to like them, and he's in the shower, and he finds Rule's outfit and kind of lays down the law to Jules. It's like, you better not be cheating on me. I love you, but my family comes first. I'm not really sure what that has to do with him finding Rule's top anyway. Like, I'm not quite sure what the two have, unless he's just saying like, I'm not cheating with you over nothing. It's sort of ironic if he's cheating with her anyway, this idea that he would be pissed at her then having a thing with someone else. But yeah, that didn't really go anywhere this week. So that's the episode. It's another really bad and very boring episode. Can't believe it was an hour. So that's Euphoria for a week. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Like and subscribe. Support me, patreon.com/borednow, or you can become a channel member at 3 different tiers. Keep watching TV, hopefully much better than this, and I'll see you soon. Bye.
Why do I feel like everybody's trying to fuck me?
You never really know a motherfucker's true intentions.
So what do you do for a living?
I'm a performer. The hardest part is how people treat me. Even my own family.
There she is.
It would be good if you gave the girls some time off.
You talking about time off. If you did, we wouldn't have this agreement.
I don't get it. Show up. Nate, answer the phone! You disappear. You wanna ruin my life! Ah!
It's your plan. Don't you want to see it through? I want you to do whatever the fuck it takes.
Alamo Brown, I hate that things have gotten so contentious between us.